Let's have a look at how terms in a contract can be altered. Generally speaking, it's super difficult to change terms once a contract has been entered into. So you've already agreed with the other party on the terms and you've accepted to enter into the contract. Now it's difficult once the contract is already entered into, it's super difficult to change any terms. There are, however, exceptions. And you need to satisfy these exceptions in order for you to be able to change terms. One of the exceptions is where there's a mutual agreement by both parties for terms to be changed or altered. And in order for this to be valid, so you need to make sure that it's supported by a legal consideration. So you need to have a legal consideration that supports that particular change in the terms. What's an example of this? Let's say, for instance, you owed money to someone, and that person that you owe money to has agreed that you'd, instead of receiving the full amount from you, you'd pay them in portions, in smaller portions, so part payments. Now, this is where this concept of accord and satisfaction comes into play. So it acts as the legal consideration in this case. And what it basically means is that the person that you owe money to has agreed for you to make part payments, but they're also receiving a benefit from it. So they have to have received a benefit from it, and a benefit can be in the form of, say, you paying uh, ahead of time. So let's say you were supposed to pay the full amount at the end of the month, but you start your part payments at the start of the month. So they're receiving money ahead of time. That would uh, constitute accord and satisfaction. So that this would be part of the legal consideration that would make such an agreement valid. The other exception to the other exception that allows you to change terms in a contract would be where the contract itself has a provision that allows the parties to change the terms. And an example in construction would be variation clauses. Now, a variation clause will allow you to change the scope of works whenever, a variation comes, or whenever a variation arises. And this is very important because if you think about it, if such a provision is not included in a construction contract, and basically what has to happen is that every single time a variation arises, there has to be a separate legal agreement that needs to be formed, and it has to be given consideration every single time that variation comes into play. So it will be so much work for people, setting up all these additional contracts. So it's best to always ensure that in a construction contract you have a provision, you have a term that would be classified as a variation clause that allows you to change the scope of works in the case that a variation arises.